Here is something every man over 40 needs to understand about waking up at 3 a.m. If you wake up at almost the same time every night, don't automatically blame insomnia and don't automatically blame your bladder, your stress, or even your mattress, because your sleep is controlled by a complex interaction between your circadian rhythm, your brain, your hormone, your metabolism, and your environment. I'm Dr. Gundi, a medical doctor and a fitness enthusiast. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what is happening inside your body when you repeatedly wake up in the middle of the night and what you can realistically do about it. So let's start with something important. Waking up during the night does not automatically mean you have insomnia, because insomnia itself is a clinical disorder involving persistent difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early despite having adequate opportunity to sleep, and with an associated daytime impairment or even distress. That is how we define it medically. So if you wake up briefly at 3 a.m., then turn over and fall back asleep, that alone does not diagnose insomnia. But if you repeatedly wake up struggling to get back to sleep and you're exhausted or impaired during the day, that's different, and that's something worth taking seriously. There was actually a study made by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine that recognizes difficulty maintaining sleep as one of the core features of insomnia. But here is where things get interesting. There isn't one single reason why people wake up at night, and there is no scientific rules that says 3 a.m. waking equals cortisol. That is too simplistic. Instead, there are several biological and environmental factors that can actually contribute to it, and cortisol is just one of them. Now, here is the thing. Your body runs on a biological clock, and cortisol is one of the hormones that follows a strong circadian rhythm. In healthy people, cortisol secretion is generally low during the early part of the biological night and rises towards the morning. In fact, researchers describe a rapid increase in cortisol around morning awakening called the cortisol awakening response. And these rises help repair your body for the demands of the active part of the day. So cortisol isn't a bad hormone itself, you actually need it. The problem isn't simply high cortisol. The real issue is whether your cortisol rhythm is appropriate for the time of day and whether other factors are disturbing your sleep. And this distinction actually matters. But waking up at 3 a.m. does not prove that cortisol suddenly spiked. It simply means we need to look at the bigger picture. Now, what are the 5 common reasons you may be waking up? Now, let's go through the major possibilities. Number 1 is alcohol. This is one of the easiest ones to overlook. Alcohol can make you fall asleep faster, but researchers show that it can disrupt sleep later in the night. In other words, you may feel like alcohol helped you fall asleep while your sleep quality later becomes worse. And this effect is not just theoretical. A systemic review and meta-analysis published in 2024 found that alcohol alters sleep architecture, including effect on REM sleep. So, if you regularly have a drink close to bedtime, try removing it for a period of time and see whether your nighttime awakenings change. Number 2 is stress and hyperarousal. Your brain doesn't necessarily switch from stress mode and to sleep mode just because you turn off the lights. Psychological stress can actually affect the system involved in sleep regulation, including the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is the system responsible for regulating cortisol. And research has found associations between chronic related stress and measured of APS axis activity. So if your mind is racing at 3 a.m., stress may be genuinely part of the equation. Now, number 3, it's actually sleep apnea. And this one is especially important for men over 40 because sleep apnea can repeatedly interrupt sleep because breathing becomes restricted or even stopped temporarily. And You may not even remember every awakening. If you snore loudly, gasp, or even choke during sleep, or wake with headaches, or if you even have excessive time sleepiness, or if someone has noticed that you stop breathing while asleep, don't simply assume you've suffered from a bad sleep. You may need a proper sleep evaluation. And number four is actually your sleep environment and nighttime habits. So for this, we have things like temperature, noise, light, late meals, reflex needing to urinate, or even medication, and even an inconsistent sleep schedule can all contribute to nighttime awakening. Sometimes the explanation isn't mysterious at all, it's simply the behavior. Number five is your circadian rhythm. Your body has a biological clock, and if your sleep schedule is inconsistent, or if you expose yourself to bright light at the wrong time, or if your sleep timing doesn't match your internal clock, your sleep can become fragmented. And that's why we shouldn't reduce every 3 a.m. awakening to one hormone. The human sleep system is much more complicated than that. So now here is what I want you to do for the next 7 nights. Don't just write down the time you wake up, track what happened before you went to bed. So here is what you should write down: what time you ate dinner, whether you drank alcohol or not, how much caffeine you had and when you had it. You can also write down about your exercise, your stress level, and what time you went to bed and what time you woke up. Then look at the patterns, because one night doesn't tell you much, but a repeated pattern can give you useful clues. And if you're waking up around 3 a.m. regularly, I want to know. So for that, I want you to type 3 a.m. in the comments below, because I'm going to use your response to decide whether I should make a follow-up video showing you exactly how to build a sleep protocol for men over 40. Now let's talk about what you can actually do. Step one, you need to protect the second half of your sleep. If you drink alcohol close to bedtime, that is one of the first variable I would check. Not because alcohol always prevents sleep, but because it doesn't. In fact, alcohol can reduce the time it takes for people to fall asleep. The problem is what can happen later. There are even some studies that consistently showed increased sleep disruption during the second half of sleep, the night after alcohol consumption. So if you want better sleep, my advice: don't use alcohol as a sleep medication. Step two, you need to control your caffeine timing, because caffeine has enough half-life that consuming it later in the day can still affect the sleep at night. So if you're waking up repeatedly, look at your total caffeine intake and especially how late you are consuming it. You don't necessarily have to eliminate caffeine completely, but you can experiment by moving it early in the day. Step three, keep your sleep schedule consistent. Your circadian system responds strongly to timing. Going to bed at wildly different times, or sleeping in dramatically on weekends, or constantly changing your sleep schedule can actually make it harder for your body to maintain a stable sleep-wake rhythm. So what you need to do is to try to keep your bedtime and wake time relatively consistent, especially your wake time. Step four, get your light exposure right. Here is the thing. Light is one of the strongest environmental signals controlling your circadian clock. Morning light helps reinforce the signal that your biological day has started, while at night, bright light, especially close to bedtime, can work against the biological signal that promote sleep. So what to do is that you can get outside during the day and make your bedroom dark at night. Simple but biologically meaningful. So now, step five, exercise but don't turn recovery into another stressor. Regular physical activity is associated with better sleep, and it has major benefits for cardiovascular and metabolic health. And resistance training can absolutely remain part of your routine, but remember, more isn't always better. Very hard training late at night may interfere with sleep for some people. So pay attention to how your own body responds. The goal isn't to eliminate stress, the goal is to manage your total stress and recovery load. Step 6. Don't chase cortisol with random supplements. This is important if you are waking up at 3 a.m. don't immediately start buying supplements marketed as cortisol blocker, because you don't know that your cortisol is elevated and you don't need to treat a hormone you haven't established is abnormal. I want you to let this sink in. Cortisol is a normal and essential hormone. The equation here is whether there is an actual disorder and does that require clinical context. Now, let's talk about something I want you to be careful with. You may see videos online telling you get your cortisol tested, but a random cortisol test isn't a general test for being stressed. Cortisol testing has a specific medical indication. For example, morning cortisol can be used when doctors are evaluating certain forms of adrenal insufficiency, and specialized cortisol tests are used when clinicians are evaluating conditions involving excessive cortisol production. But waking up at 3 a.m. by itself is not a reason to assume you have a cortisol disorder, and it is certainly not a reason to order a full hormone panel without clinical context. If your nighttime awakenings are persistent, especially if they are accompanied by loud snoring, gasping, excessive daytime sleepiness, unexplained weight changes, significant fatigue, or other concerning symptoms, talk to your doctor, because the appropriate evaluation depends on the symptoms, not on guessing. So the question is, what about testosterone in all of this? This is where a lot of online content gets misleading. Cortisol and testosterone are both steroid hormone, and their production is connected to broader endocrine evaluation. But cortisol doesn't simply steal cholesterol from testosterone. That is not how you should think about it. The relationship between the stress system and the reproductive system is much more complicated. Chronic stress can affect endocrine regulation, but waking up at 3 a.m. does not prove that your testosterone is low, and low testosterone should not be diagnosed from symptoms alone. If you have persistent symptoms such as reduced libido, erectile dysfunction, reduced energy, a loss of muscle mass, or other concerns, you need to talk to your doctor about whether testosterone evaluation is appropriate or not. That's medicine, not guessing. So, to wrap this up, let's say if you wake up at 3 a.m., don't panic, and don't automatically assume it's cortisol, and don't automatically assume it's insomnia either. Instead, look at the pattern: alcohol, caffeine, stress, your sleep schedule, your environment, your breathing during sleep, your overall health, and your daily habits. Because nighttime awakening is a symptom, not a diagnosis. And once you identify the cause, you can actually do something about it. If you wake up around 3 a.m. regularly, comment 3 a.m. below. And if you want more based evidence health information for men over 40 like this one, please subscribe to the channel, because YouTube's telling me that a lot of you watching are not really subscribed yet. Thanks a bunch. So that's it for me. Train smart, live long, enjoy your own terms, and I will see you in the next video.